Today was supposed to be a pretty cool day for Halo. A lot of us assumed we'd be getting information about Halo Infinite Season 6, along with the roadmap for HCS, and lots of goodies for Halo. And while today's update wasn't totally terrible, it definitely kind of seems like 343 might be moving on from Infinite a bit. And if you've been around Halo for a while, you'll kind of know this is a common trend. Both Halo 5 and MCC both launched in pretty rough conditions. However, 343 would spend time updating both of those games to get them into a good condition. However, in both cases, at that time, the player base had already dropped significantly, and 343 would then move on to the next project. Obviously, with Halo 5, that was moving on to Infinite, and with MCC, maybe it's a little bit more of a gray area because MCC was more of like a nostalgic piece anyways, so ongoing support forever might have never been in the question, and rather they just came back to fix it because they shipped such a bad product. Halo 4 also had a pretty similar scenario, though Halo 4 did actually launch content complete and relatively bug-free. It just launched with some pretty weird settings that did get improved over time, with some balance updates and actual setting changes to the game. And that's why today's version of Halo 4 in MCC is actually okay. Like, I actually don't mind it. However, at launch, I didn't really care much for Halo 4. Now, all that out of the way, what happened today? Well, Season 6 of Halo Infinite doesn't exist. Instead, we are getting Content Update 29, CU29, which I assume is like their internal naming for these updates. So apparently, we've had 28 content updates for Halo Infinite. I'm not going to go through and count because I don't care enough, but I don't know. Comical. So going forward, there are no more seasons. We will be getting smaller kind of operations and updates, similar to the update model that I think the MCC has today. And I think this is pretty similar to kind of what happened with Halo 5. They kind of wrapped up their main content model. We're not going to get huge game modes. We're not going to get huge maps or anything like that going forward, I don't think. Looking forward, they did say they confirmed several player requested features like a match composer, new ways to earn past customization content, and that updated networking model that they've been working on, and they're bringing a new anti-cheat initiative into the game. And Content Update 29 does also include a bunch of Forge improvements. We're getting a Covenant object palette, which looks pretty cool, and there's some new Forge features. Content Update 29 does also include like a developer-made arena map, along with rotating 3 Forge-made BTB maps into the BTB playlist. There's also the new armor core and customization reward, and then there will be some more operations coming up, with the first one being like Halo Wars themed. But here's the thing, right? So once we get past Content Update 29, occasionally we might get a new map, maybe we get a random new game mode here or there, but I think most of the stuff going forward for Halo Infinite, other than quality of life changes like a match composer and stuff like that, are just going to be community-driven maps and modes and stuff like that. And similar to late Halo 5, they'll probably still have someone that's updating playlists on a fairly regular basis, rotating in new maps, finding new modes, and all sorts of stuff. Because even late Halo 5, we got stuff like Halo 5 Mythic, which was this really cool playlist which completely changed how Halo 5 played, but it was all made by the community in Forge, though 343's kind of live service update team at that time did help a little bit as far as I know. But I think this really marks the end of Halo Infinite as a live service game. Going forward, for the people who like Halo Infinite and like the state that it's in, it'll still be a fun game. It'll still be perfectly playable for the foreseeable future, and it's not like it's going to die tomorrow. But I think without big seasons to pull back players, you're going to see over the next few years, the player base that is remaining will slowly dwindle. Because as much as we all hate live service games, there is a reason they exist in the form that they do. When you play a game for a long time, it is natural to get bored and fall off the game and go and play something else. But the reason these live service games are so successful and they stay alive for so long is because every few months or every 6 months or whatever the update cycle is for a specific game, they drop big new updates with flashy new trailers, new marketing pushes, and it brings back a bunch of lapsed players into the game. I'll be honest, Halo Infinite was even doing this for me. I was mostly returning for big new seasons and things like that, whereas going forward, without those big new updates to get people excited, you're not going to see the influxes increases in returning players and even new players like we were seeing with the releases of new seasons. While Halo Infinite has never recovered its player base by any means, if you look just back at Season 5, there was a notable uptick in players around the release of that update. And that was because it was a brand new season, it had marketing, it had a trailer, it included a fair amount of new content, along with a battle pass and cosmetics and stuff like that. I'm sure going forward we'll still get new cosmetics and new items in the store for you to purchase, but I don't think we're going to be getting like a whole slew of new content at once. At best, it's going to be slowly trickled in, and at worst, eventually, I think it's all going to be Forge-made maps and modes made by the community. That's kind of my opinion on where Halo Infinite is going, but what's the future of Halo? I think we're not going to see something new for 5 to 6 years probably. While I dream of a world where the moment Halo Infinite came out, 343 had a team working on the next Halo game so we wouldn't have to wait a long time, I highly doubt that, especially with like the layoffs and the fact that they've clearly been short-staffed and unable to maintain Halo Infinite, especially during the early days when it was having issues. So it's completely unlikely that there's been a team of people working on a new game, especially since, you know, we all saw the news recently that Tatanka was canceled behind the scenes, though that's kind of been a rumor that's been going around for like over a year. So 5 to 6 years from now, maybe, who really even knows at this point when and if we will see the next Halo game. For all we know, maybe 343 won't even make another Halo game. Maybe they'll finally make something else. We really don't know what the future is of Halo or of 343. And I think while it would be ridiculous for them to come out and be like, we are working on another game, because then that would clearly mark the end of Halo Infinite, it would be nice to know, like, if something is coming in the future. I'm sure eventually we'll hear something from behind the scenes or rumblings from here or there, but for now we'll have to wait and see how this kind of new content update structure works for Infinite. Like I said, I put my money on this being the signaling of them sort of slowly moving away from Halo Infinite, but maybe I'm wrong. Games do exist that don't have seasonal structure updates. There is stuff like Counter-Strike that continues to be an anomaly in gaming that has never had true seasonal updates like a live service game. Instead, they just kind of throw new updates into the game as they finish them, and they haven't even had a new operation, which were like their bigger updates in quite some time. Obviously, CS2 was a giant update for the game, but you kind of get my point. CS has done things differently and it's been very successful. So we'll see if Halo Infinite can transition into this content update structure, and maybe it'll work out a lot better than I'm anticipating. But like I said, most likely, I think we get some quality of life updates, you'll get the occasional new map, maybe we'll get the occasional new game mode. Who knows if we're going to get any more sandbox items, any new weapons, any new vehicles. And truly, as a Halo fan, I think this kind of marks the true end of development of Halo Infinite in terms of it truly changing. I think going forward, it's going to mostly be the game that it is today, with little changes here and there. And I don't know if I'm bummed or happy about this, to be honest, because for a while I've kind of wished that 343 would move on to the next game, because I don't think it was ever truly possible for Infinite to revitalize the player base that the game had lost, because without a new game, how are you going to get all those players to come back? And so maybe this signifies that we will get a new game and Halo will have another chance at being successful. And on that front, you know, maybe I'm happy. Maybe this is the way to go. And on the other side, I am a little bit sad. I think Halo Infinite was finally getting into a pretty decent place. It's pretty fun to play, and I do enjoy the game for what it is. So on that front, I'm a little bit sad, as this probably means we're not going to get major new updates for the game. I would have loved to see bigger updates. I would have loved to see a big new game mode, more maps, more weapons, more vehicles, and I really don't think we will see that with this new model. But that's kind of just my opinion on the Halo Infinite news. I didn't really edit this video too heavily. I mostly just talked off the cuff, gave you guys my opinion, but let me know in the comments what you think is going on with Halo and Halo Infinite, and if you're excited for content update 29.